During divorce, there's many negative things going through your head. Maybe you're worried about seeing the kids again. Maybe the house. Maybe how are you going to afford all of this? Those are just a few of the negative thoughts. And here's the ironic thing. Most of the time, these aren't just single thoughts. These are experiences that are felt in a collective whole. So it's not just one of these issues. It's numerous of them stacked up. And that's where it really starts to add up and starts to hurt. So today, we're going to talk about a big shift in the way that we approach these negative thoughts that's going to empower you and give you the ability to navigate on a different level. It's going to give you the way through this challenge and through this pain, but it's also going to give you the help throughout other parts of your life. See, after you experience this, you'll never have the same experience with negative thoughts again. So, how are we going to do that? First off, we got to understand what's a normal process here. Part of the normal process is understanding that there's a lot of negative things going on during divorce. It's a serious time, and it's not going to be easy. Accepting that is typically step one. The fact that this isn't going to be easy. It's not going to be over today. It's not going to be over tomorrow. And even when the court papers are signed and everything is finalized, it's still not going to be over then either. So having that all in mind gives us the ability to move on to that next step, which is understanding our thoughts. And specifically, we're going to do that today by stopping on our beautiful walk and doing a simple, easy task. I ask you to close your eyes and just listen as I count to 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can open your eyes if you want to, start walking again, and or continue listening if you're just watching. During that 5-second count, how many thoughts ran through your head? What were you thinking? Did anything cross your mind at all? Were you thinking about how my tempo changed? How my voice inflection changed? Were you wondering why I asked you in the first place? Did you even close your eyes? See, all of these are thoughts. Thoughts that crossed your mind. And here's the powerful thing. That was 5 seconds. How many seconds are in the day? How many thoughts run through your head? Well, research shows us approximately 70,000 thoughts run through our mind every single day. 70,000 thoughts. And here's the mind-blowing statistic out of all of this. 70% of those thoughts, well, they're negative. Understanding that statistic alone is powerful. It's empowering, and it guides us through this challenging time in our life through divorce. So, how are we going to use that? Well, we're going to reframe. We're going to refocus. And we're going to ask ourselves a question when we have those negative thoughts. A lot of the negative thoughts that come up in divorce are ones that I felt, are ones that many men feel, and are common throughout the course of my work. Some of those may be, I'm not worthy, I messed it all up, I'm never going to get it all back again, I'll never be loved again. If you're even feeling one of those things in this period of time, let me reassure you, your feelings are valid, but they're not accurate. So how are we going to approach that? Well, we're going to approach it like this. We could take the logical aspect. For men, that's a very common aspect. We can ask ourselves, all right, do we know any divorced men? Where are they in this process? Hey, did they ever get married again? Have another relationship again? Did they ever see their kids? Are their relationships better now with their kids than they were before? See, just asking yourself these simple questions can help guide you in a process of reframing those negative thoughts. So every time a negative thought comes in, I want you to ask yourself the question on the opposite side. Ask yourself, is that 100% true? And if you can't prove to the fact that the question, the negative comment that you have in your head, the statement that's reoccurring is true, well then I want you to ask yourself the converse of that question. If this was not true, what would be true? Or do I have an example of this where it's wrong? Just doing those simple things can be a mind shift that is not only going to help you in divorce, but it's going to help you in the rest of your life. So if we could do this with 10% of the 70% of our thoughts, we're looking at a significant change in our life. And if we can change that 10% of those negative thoughts right out the gate, throughout the day, that's going to compound day over day, minute after minute, hour after hour. And we're just going to continue to question these beliefs in our mind that aren't necessarily true. And we will come to find out a lot of the beliefs that we have aren't true at all. They're just falsities. They're things we were told growing up. You know, you're not enough, maybe. Somebody told you that, or in some form or fashion you learned that about yourself because you felt someone had communicated that to you, right? That's an easy thing for a kid to believe. That's not necessarily true. And most of the time, our parents never directly said that. It was something that we interpreted by actions, by some slight words that we interpreted wrong, whatever it may be. And then if you actually look at the action of your parents, most of the time they've sacrificed so much for you to get to where you are. They may not have been perfect, but they certainly loved in the way that they could love to the best of their ability. And that is a powerful lens to look at the situation. It's powerful to see that there was still love in a relationship that may not be how you needed to be or experience love at that period of time. And so when we apply this framing of questioning our beliefs, asking ourselves, is this really true? Using examples in our lives, such as, hey, do I know any divorced guys that got married again? Do I know any of them that had another family, that saw their kids, that met the woman of their dreams? If you ask yourself those simple questions, you'll probably find that your initial assumption is just where you find yourself today. It's a belief, and they're probably a falsity, not something that's not necessarily true, just because you may feel that certain way about where you're at this certain moment. But this too shall pass. This is only a moment in time. And one thing that is guaranteed in life over anything else is change. And that's the most important thing here. If you're this far along in the video, you're part of that 20%. You're part of the 20% that actually wants to do something different. You've taken that step. You've listened this far. Continue it forward. You clearly care. And I care that you're here too. Continue making those steps. Asking yourself, what's right about what you're thinking and what's wrong. And you will see a change in your life that only comes from such a wonderful opportunity, such as divorce. And you may not feel that way initially out the gate, But over the long time, over the long run, you'll see it that way too. I'm confident. I'm confident so much so that we can ask ourselves, do you know any men right now that are happier after divorce? I can almost guarantee you know at least one. And I can also almost guarantee that you know several men that you don't even know are divorced, but have a healthier, happier relationship now because they went through it, because they did the work, and most of them did it by themselves. But imagine doing it with somebody that can guide the way, and we're doing it with intention and expediting that process. Well, we're here to help, and there's plenty of other channels on here as well that can guide you through this process. So definitely, definitely continue the progress forward. Make sure that you're questioning your beliefs. Have a good understanding of how many thoughts go through our heads a day and how those thoughts impact our overall mood and attitude. If you were told 70,000 times during the day by somebody else you weren't enough, you're never going to be loved again, and or one of the other lies that you're telling yourselves, what would you say to that person? What would you do if you had somebody telling you that? I can't imagine you'd tolerate it very long. So the question is, why do you tolerate it if you're telling yourself that story? Why do you put up with it? Why do you even acknowledge it? Start today. Start questioning those 70,000 thoughts and those 49,000 approximate negative thoughts. Work on that 10% and make sure you're telling yourself the right story.